Mark Anthony, tourguidenotebook.com. And to my left is?
Doc Wymer.
And your website is?
I'm a tour guide, and
And your website, you have a website. What's the website name?
best, LasVegasDetours.com.
All right. How long have you been a tour guide here in Vegas?
I can't remember, 8 or 9 years, but before that, I've been driven like 500,000 miles around the West.
Tell me about it. You and I do tours all over the West, and let's talk about that. You seem to be one of the few tour guides that actually likes doing the West Rim. Why do you like doing the West Rim?
You know, where do you get a job where you get to go to the Grand Canyon every day and get paid for it? I never get tired of that.
That's true.
It's a lot of fun. You know, there's a western town out there. It's a 7-year-old replica of an old West town, a cowboy town. And they've got horses out there, and one mule in particular, Jackson, that loves me best.
You got a mule as a best friend, do you?
Shit. Well, he doesn't give me a lot of grief, although I do give him candy mints, hard candies, and he's got minty fresh breath.
That's important out there in the Old West. Got to have that fresh breath.
He hangs around with horses, and he's not sure what he really is. He thinks he's a horse. He's well-mannered, and he loves me best, as I said.
When you take people out, like, to the West Rim, what do you tell them on the way out there? Because, you know, people have the photos in their mind of what the Grand Canyon looks like, but when they step on that edge of that canyon, photos just don't do it justice.
There's no way to describe that. It's a feeling. It's visual, certainly. And the photos are great, but you don't get that three-dimensional. You don't get the wind in your face. You don't get the feel of the air and the temperature and all this stuff that goes along with the memory that you take home with you. The photos are great, but you'll never forget what you see and feel.
See and feel. That's it.
Yeah.
You look in and there's 4 billion years of Earth history looking at you. Kind of makes you feel insignificant, doesn't it?
How do you wrap your mind around something like that? You know, it is that big. It is grand for a reason.
And and for us, we get to take people out there. We get to show them this and live it through their eyes and just watch their emotions go as they look into that.
You know, that's really one of the cool things that I get out of that every day. One of the benefits I get every day. It's seeing it fresh again every day. We've been out there hundreds of times, since before the road was wide, since before there was gravel on the road, since before Diamond Bar was...
Back when it was a cow path.
That's right. The wash, the dry stream bed, we drive up to get there. But we've been going out there for a long time. But every time we take some guests out there, they refresh us. They get to show us the Grand Canyon.
For us.
Yeah, through their eyes. We see it over again. And they see the experience that we bring, certainly the stories we have to tell, but we get to see it through the eyes of a newcomer.
Yeah. Then we have the South Rim. It's the same but completely different.
Absolutely. It's got government money coming into it. It's finished and polished and nice. It's got some ancient building, not ancient, but
historic buildings.
Historic, certainly. In the Hopi House, for example, the ancient ones, the Anasazi and the Hopi, and the people who have been in the area for 100,000 years, we get to see examples of what they put together, whereas and that's the South Rim. The West Rim is raw and unfinished and in process right now, in development right now.
Well, so is the Grand Canyon by itself.
Well, that's true.
Have you been able to do the helicopters?
Yeah. I got my first helicopter ride when I was 10 years old.
Really?
County fair. This is probably $2 or something. They lifted up. It was one of those Bell G47s. Looks like a grasshopper, a little bubble on the front. And they lifted off the ground and flew around a cornfield and landed. But I'll never forget that. And ever since that happened, that first experience, I adore helicopters and look forward to the very next opportunity to fly on one. And to see the Grand Canyon from a helicopter...
Totally different view.
It must be the very best way to do
that. It's so funny, going back again to the West Rim, once in a while you'll get the customer who wants to experience it all. So they do the helicopters and they want to do the skywalk. And then, but the helicopter rides out there, they take you down into the canyon, and you're at the bottom of it, and you're looking up. And then they come up and they do the skywalk, and normally the skywalk is really cool, but once you've done that helicopter ride, it's just like, okay.
You know, we haven't talked about that, Mark,
Yes.
but that's the same experience that I've gotten. And we have timing situations and time management, and we want to show everything that we can, and sometimes the sequence is not an ideal time sequence. But here's what I found, same thing that you're alluding to. The people who see the skywalk before the helicopter ride think the skywalk is fabulous. And then they do the helicopter, they think that's fabulous as well.
Yeah.
If you do the helicopter first, it's amazing. And then you do the skywalk, it's hard to beat that helicopter.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same. It's not as good or great or fantastic.
And when you're dealing with like the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, every hour is different out there. You know, I mean, it's never the same view twice. You can never get that same photo twice.
Oh, it's partly because of the daylight hours and the
Time of
month,
the year and their shadows and the weather and
clouds. I know you, and some of your favorite days out there are when there are those spotty clouds that are blowing across the canyon. It changes by the moment.
gives you that depth, that feel of just how grand it is versus how small we humans are once you see that.
You know, that's a good point too. I think people learn about themselves out there when they see the Grand Canyon, whether it's the West Rim or the North Rim or South, doesn't matter where it is. It's humbling in a way to recognize the age of the thing, the depth that it has compared to our lifespan.
Well, like when you're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon, the rock you're standing on is the rock that was below the dinosaurs. The first 250 million years has already been washed off from erosion. So you're standing on rock that was new before the dinosaurs. And just when they stand there and they grasp that age concept, that look in their face, and they're just like, wow.
Yeah, that's another thing that's such a challenge for us to grasp, that age, the depth of time that has passed between the time it all started, the rising of the South Rim and the North Rim and the shift in the Colorado River flow and the erosion, all those things. Dinosaurs, of course they fit into that, but how do we understand that really? We're here for 80 years maybe, more or less.
Just a little sand pebble of time there.
That's right, we don't count.
Bryce Canyon, what do you think of Bryce Canyon?
Oh, let's do that in another. That's a spectacular place in its own right, and you can't really, Mark, you know this, you can't compare them.
No, but, you know, I always explain the Grand Canyon as male, macho, strong. Zion is feminine, changing, moody, things like that. What is your favorite tour of the Southwest as a day trip out of Vegas? If someone was to hire you or go through one of the companies that you work for, what is your favorite tour?
The one that really impresses me the most, certainly the Grand Canyon is grand, and as I said earlier, I never get tired of that. And Bryce is remarkable in its own right. There's nothing that I've ever seen anywhere close to that. Zion, though, is like a miniature Grand Canyon with a river in the bottom and trees around, and you feel like, my impression is that you feel like you're participating in it, not just observing it and looking at it. You're in the middle of it.
Well, you're in it.
Well, yeah, and you feel it and you know it, and there's that connection that takes place. People have described that Zion Canyon experience, just walking on the paths, as a spiritual adventure, knowing yourself just a little bit better rather than just standing back and looking and the awesomeness of things. You're part of that awesomeness.
Isn't that fun, though? I mean, when we take people out there, they're expecting kind of to see something, not experience something.
To really be part of something is an
Yeah.
unexpected surprise for most people.
Yeah, because they're in Vegas, they're going to experience a show, they're going to experience a ride, they're going to go out to the Grand Canyon to see some rocks, and then they get out there, and it's actually a 180. They actually all of a sudden start to become part of it and start to participate in it, and they start to just have that experience that was not on the agenda in any form whatsoever.
Oh, yeah, it's beyond Vegas. It's just exactly the opposite. Instead of a man-made wonder, which Vegas certainly is, the natural wonder of the countryside out there and the rocks and the trees and the river, the whole thing is so magnificent in so many ways. And one of the things, you're talking about day trips, but if a person could find a time to create a multi-day personal private tour, custom tour of that area, at night, when the sun goes down and you're in the Zion Canyon, for example, or at Bryce Canyon at 8,000 feet, and there are no streetlights out there, and you're looking up at the stars, and you'll recognize again how humbling this all is. What a part of the universe that we are. Stars that you can't imagine how many there are. You've never seen so many until you're at that altitude or in that darkness.
It's just, I mean, the times I've done overnights at the Grand Canyon, going up there, I will tell my guests, if you see a flashlight at a convenience store, grab it. It's going to get dark at night.
It gets really dark at night.
And it's really funny because they're going, yeah. But then the following morning, we're loading the van up or the bus up, and they'll look at me and go, "It got dark last night."
And the stars come out, and it is the most amazing thing. I had a multi-day tour through the Southwest, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. And one of the at the end, I asked, what did you enjoy the most? And one of the guests said that they will never in their life forget the number of stars and the brightness of the stars and the blackness of the sky.
They will probably never remember the canyon they saw it at, but they will remember that.
They will. They'll remember the canyon too. I mean, how do you you don't forget
Bryce?
That's right.
And then now here we are. We're in the middle of April. In about another week or two, we're going to have a full moon. And to experience it in a full moon is awesome.
Well, that's exciting too, because the shadows that change almost immediate the minute. You can see the moon go over or coming up and rising on the mountain on the other side of you, on the other side of the canyon. I remember the sun coming up at Zion, beautiful, bright blue sky directly above us, and we're still in the shade. Mm-hmm. And we watched the sun move the shade into us over a matter of minutes until the sun was directly overhead. It was amazing. And the moon, when it comes out, is the same way. Suddenly, it's just lighting the entire canyon, and shadows that are spooky and ethereal.
Well, now I just came back from my multi-day tour, and we watched the sunset at the Grand Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really funny because the sun set. And we did too. And I'm like, okay, do you want to go back? And they're like, no. They just want to sit there.
Oh, and feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be part of that.
It's just, there's just something magical to be out there.
Well, one of the things about that time, too, Mark, as you know, the tours out of Vegas or Phoenix, they show up, there's a peak demand time. And because of the timing constraints that they have for a day tour, they're out there at 10:30, 11 o'clock, and they leave at about 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30. They're gone. And the only people that remain when the sun sets, or when the sun comes up for that matter, are the people that spent the night there.
Yeah.
It's isolated. You've got the solitude that you want, and that feeling is yours because there's no crowd out there.
And the wildlife know that, so they come out and you get to see more of it.
Oh my God! We saw yesterday. I was out there at the South Rim, and we saw 2 of the California condors effortlessly gliding. I never saw them flap a wing.
No.
And right there by the path at Mather's Point, right there under the trees at Mather's Point were a dozen elk laying in the grass and standing.
Isn't it cool because they're quiet and they blend in? And
you should see these photos I took yesterday. People standing 8 feet away, and you know how the rangers are so protective of the elk. There was no ranger around, but the people from around the world looking at these creatures that are larger than a horse, big as a moose, and they're so respectful and unafraid both ways.
Right.
It is nature as we would like to have it around the world.
Yes. And and it's so funny because you'll look at your guests and like that you're at the point, you're at Mather Point, and it's like, do we take photos of this or do we take photos of that? Which
You get it all.
There it is, right there.
And you hope they all turn out.
Yes.
But they're never good enough.
Yeah.
Mark, on that note, I've got to go. I know that you scheduled me for a little time before this tour, but can we close this out and can we continue this some other time?
Yes, we can.
It's good stuff. We got stories to tell.
Yes, we do.
We were out. You had a long adventure last week, and I got to spend a night over near Area 51 at Rachel, Nevada, which was very interesting. So let's. Can we continue this? I'd like to.
What is your website again?
Oh,